What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delabros here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, coming at you with something a little different tonight. Not a typical comic review like we typically do. Review like we typically do. That's called a redundant phrasing, and I would be editing that out of my book right now if I were actually editing. But instead, I'm talking about the movie Bloodshot, which I believe is actually the last major film to make it into movie theaters, interestingly enough. This hit, I think, 2 weeks before everything went on lockdown everywhere. And so, of course, it didn't do very well. People were already kind of piecing out of theaters at that point. I even didn't get to see it. And I'm a huge Vin Diesel fan, for those that don't know. So I typically go to his movies on opening night, see them every time I possibly can. I just find his movies just super fun, almost always. And this proved no exception. So Bloodshot, it's a Valiant Comics property, and it came from the original Valiant line in the early '90s. There is a run of Bloodshot. I think the first comic series in the '90s went 43 issues, as I recall. I should look this stuff up before doing the video, but it's around there. And then they relaunched Bloodshot in 2012 with their new line when Dinesh took over for Valiant. And they had this little great storyline just about a soldier who lost his memories, and this translates to the series here. And they would send him on missions through this Project Rising Spirit, and Project Rising Spirit would control his nanites and reset him and bring him back. And that's kind of the basic premise of Bloodshot. So basically, a soldier dies, and they replace his blood with nanites. The nanites heal him. It gives him like a Wolverine style healing factor, to where it's really just like a combination of, I'd say, like Wolverine and the Punisher when we look at it and kind of break it down on that level. And a lot of Valiant heroes are combinations of other heroes in the other universes like that. So pretty cool on the character side, with the whole soldier who doesn't remember himself, who's programmed. Just a cold-blooded killer, and it ends up being very fun to read. That first series was pretty neat, and then it got transitioned over to Jeff Lemire, who is an indie comic writer, who then really took it off in a different direction, where Bloodshot really kind of went on the run. Kind of developed this whole Bloodshot family out of things. It was very different, a lot less action oriented. A lot more psychological drama oriented. Pretty neat, but very different. I didn't like it at first, but I grew to really love it as the storylines expanded. It was kind of a slow roll. So that's kind of the history of publication of it. And Valiant got bought by this company called DMG Properties. And then, of course, Sony put out this movie, which was tied to that. And this DMG Properties is a Chinese company who invests in multimedia and all that, and Valiant became basically their, IP movie farm. So Bloodshot's been in development for a while. Dinesh from Valiant actually got a producer credit on this, which is pretty cool. And I've actually known about this movie for a long time. I heard about sort of the behind the scenes that was going on with this even a year ago. I mean, this has been at least done on the filming level for a long time. And it, again, came out 2 weeks before coronavirus, so a lot of people just didn't see it. And they were actually very quick. So where Disney has not released The Black Widow, which was supposed to come out last month also, and we still don't know what their release plans are going to be for that, the Bloodshot movie was then released very quickly on to digital. A lot of people I talked to in my circles were kind of upset by this. And it wasn't because it just came to digital quickly. Everybody wanted to see it. But the fact that they put it up for a $19.99 rental right away, it just felt like it was overpriced for what it was. So a lot of people might have not checked it out over that. But you have the option if you really want to watch it right now. And I wanted to watch it right now. So I watched this last night, and I thought that it was a very fun movie. Vin Diesel is the Bloodshot character. He gets his memories wiped after a whole incident with the military where he gets killed, and they start programming him to go on these missions based on his wife, who he thinks got killed, and they keep doing it over and over again. And of course, eventually he kind of figures out what's going on because people tell him, and he gets a cast of characters around him to then fight the people who are sending him on missions in the first place. Rising Spirit in the Valiant universe really has these like big government connections. They seem to have a real mission going on, and they feel like a much bigger organization than they do in this movie. I think that's my one complaint about the movie is I feel like the scope of this movie felt very limited. You felt like you were almost in a tunnel the whole time, and I guess that's just because of where it was set. But you're in their office slash R&D lab, and then you're kind of in these tunnels, and then you're kind of in this building, and there was no larger scope involved there. So I didn't really get a great sense of the world building around this because it was all so hyper focused on this one guy. There was a cast of characters of Rising Spirit who had different prosthetics, which were pretty interesting. And they all were ended up controlled by this sort of dastardly bad guy who was manipulating everybody for his own devices. Now, part of my next complaint, why am I doing all the complaints? I liked this movie a lot. Oh, well, I'm going to do the complaints anyway. My next complaint was that the villain really felt like he didn't have a ton of motivation outside of being evil for the sake of evil. He just manipulated people. He killed people who quit his program, and he just went for it. So I wasn't really sure what his end goal was. It didn't seem like he was pushing for more power. He wasn't pushing to take over the world or anything like that. He was just trying to keep control of this Rising Spirit program, and it felt a little thin on the motivational angle. Now, on the Vin Diesel angle, where he's obviously manipulated into these violent situations because he wants revenge for his quote dead wife, that was very great, and that came from the comic, and so that was really well done. I enjoyed it each time around, and I actually appreciated the pacing on the sort of memory wipes and redos. You can get caught up in that, and I feel like there's movies like Memento or whatever where like those whole memory scenes really drag for a little bit. This did not. We didn't have enough, sort of memory resets where it was like, okay, we get it already. They showed us very clearly what happened the first time, and they skipped over his sort of training the next time and got right into the action, which I really appreciated. The movie was not long at all. It was like, I think it was an hour and 40 minutes. And the pacing was just phenomenal. I mean, I was not bored at all once. I enjoyed the entire thing on that front. There's a leading lady who was also working for Rising Spirit, and you could tell there was like a slight romance thing in it, but it didn't really develop. And she ended up teaming up with Bloodshot towards the end there, as a spoiler. But you could tell that she's sympathetic towards him throughout the entire movie. There, she was very good. And I'm sorry that my sort of thing keeps cutting out here, guys, but it is what it is. So everybody all around was actually really good. The effects were pretty good. They definitely were not on like the Marvel level, which we're spoiled by with these budget $1 billion budget movies or whatever. But they were still pretty adequate, and it worked out pretty well. I wasn't really taken out of the movie, except for maybe a little bit in the last scene. There's a big fight scene with elevators and some strange Dr. Octopus arms, and it was a little much, but was good. Dialogue was good all the way around. And of course, Vin Diesel really did great as Bloodshot. And I was just very happy with his performance, as I typically am with these movies. So yeah, overall, for the last movie to come out, maybe ever, I hear there's rumors of a couple of big movie chains shutting down. And I don't know what's going to happen after this in terms of going to movies and things like that. I can't see myself going back and sitting in a movie theater where somebody else has sat and had the virus, who knows, anytime soon. I don't know if I'll do it this year. I don't know if I'll do it next year. I don't know if I'll do it ever. I really like watching a movie that just came out from the comfort of my own home. Though I hope they don't start releasing movies like this at $20 because that's a little steep for a movie like this. You might want to wait until it gets a general digital release that's more reasonably priced. But yeah, for the last movie to come out, this was a good one, and I wish it would have fared better. I hope that Sony sticks with the property and sticks with cool stories from the Valiant universe, because I think there's a lot of cool properties that they could mine here. And yeah, I'd say this was like a solid 8 out of 10. This is a good B movie. It's just a popcorn flip, a lot of action, a lot of fun, and that's all you can really ask for out of a movie. So we'll see what the future holds for the movie industry in general, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know if you've watched this or if you are reading any of the Valiant comics. I've always been a big Valiant fan, so of course, happy to connect with people on that. We'll talk to you guys soon.